so what we're going to talk about here is how to winterize your back. I mean, now it's appropriate. It's winter time. I have a extensive education not only in how to help people who are in trouble, help them stabilize to stay out of trouble, but also to educate on prevention, and that type of thing. I would really like to see, whenever I see somebody come in and they can hardly stand up, and the face is a mask of a grimace. I just feel terrible for that person. I'm an unbelievable bleeding heart, and there are lots of I don't think that by doing any of this, I'm going to be putting myself out of business. I just think I'm going to keep a lot more smiles coming in, which is going to be a really good thing.
Right, you don't rely on accidents.
I don't chase the ambulance, I drive it. I run people over with it. Right.
Specifically.
Yeah, exactly. I would never do that. Right. And so, winter is a time, so we think of things like, like shoveling. Or much more common that I've found, hopefully these here will be much more accessible, the next day. It's often the next day that people pay. It's not an injury right in the moment, right? So it's something where you can't always use the way that you feel as a guide for when you're doing a task or activity or something like that, because you won't know till later. Isn't that a bummer?
Did you say you can't use the way you feel as a guide? So you're feeling good. Is that what you said?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that's important, because I think
Yeah.
you hit a key there.
It is. Our bodies are designed to get through the challenge of the moment, and then feel pain later when we're safe. It's a survival mechanism, and when you think about it, it makes pretty good sense, doesn't it? If you double over in pain when a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you down, you're going to get eaten, and that would be a terrible thing, right? So that happens a lot. Not always. Certainly, it happens. If someone's in bad enough shape, it can be immediate pain in the moment, but much more often it's later. So that's why these techniques are going to be so important to you, because you could be shoveling away, you could be snow blowing away, you could be raking leaves, you could be doing whatever and feeling great, and it's not going to, but the next day is going to be a whole different story, and goodness knows how long after that. And so, none of us want to do, but it's not just shoveling or what have you. There can also be, we're also talking about stability. We don't only have snow that needs to be moved, we have ice that needs to be contended with, right? For our safety, we've got to be able to keep our balance and not end up down. You don't even have to have a full fall. A simple, a momentary slip like this can be a huge jolt for the body. And I have seen lots of people, falling that, not having taken a complete fall, but just a quick stumble, a quick jolt to the body, and they're in a whole world of hurt, right? So that's another way that you're going to need to keep yourself safe, is basically by dealing with the ice. As far as some of the drivers around here and all that kind of thing, I can't help you, right? Every once in a while we hear a nice little crunch out front of our office, and no, I don't go running out to my business card either. So what causes people to get into trouble when we're in a challenging period of the year like this? And I guess in ways you could extrapolate this to other parts of the year too. There's a seasonality to the challenges that we face, but I think that winter tends to be one of the toughest ones, right? So there are three things that people go through. I guess I'll just use red here so that it sticks out. And we're gonna cover these all in turn. So one of them that's a real problem when we end up in a situation like this where we have to use our bodies is a lack of conditioning. And I thought I heard you mention this before, Jane, that it's great when somebody's in shape, but it's not so good when they're not, right? And that's and that's the point. We'll dig into that a little bit later, but I just want to introduce you to the topics they're going to be covering. Next one is really huge. Loss of stability. Okay, and we're going to get into this, more also. But this is the third thing. The fourth thing is, unfortunately, we do a lot of things that we're not naturally designed to do. There we go. So using your body incorrectly using your body for a way in which it was not designed. If you, anything that you use incorrectly, if you call in asking them to honor the warranty, they're going to tell you to take a hike, right? So same thing with your body, except there's no one that's gonna give you a new one if you call and complain. I don't know even who you'd call and complain to. Like I said, depends on your belief system. So these are the things that I wanna cover in turn, because essentially, either our bodies aren't ready, in one way or another, either stability-wise or conditioning-wise, or we have problems with using our body correctly. Okay. So the first thing that I want to deal with is, and any of these things go wrong. You're stuck on the couch, and we live in a world that can more and more doesn't really want to stop for you if you need to stop. So it becomes more and more important as time goes on, unless you run and join an Amish community or something like that to be able to keep going, right? Actually, the Amish probably work more than we do, but they're just they're maybe not quite as hectic a pace. So I looked this up and I thought it was really fascinating, right? So over the course of a winter, and there's usually about 4 months, give or take, in which we could get snow, right? Over that period of time, we get 15 to 20 snowstorms on average, right? This is according to Google, so it must be true, okay? I don't feel a little reference right here. So think about it this way, and in between that time, we have 8 to 9 months off, right? So you could almost think of it as like a season of a sport, like baseball, or the hockey season is ungodly long, but football, something like that, where they're intense for 3 or 4 months, and then they have an off season. But do you think that elite athletes are doing nothing in the off season? No, not at least there's spring training for baseball players and that kind of thing, right? So they're staying in shape, okay? Now, in the on season, I guess this is most like football, right? Because they have 16 games a year. 15 to 20 shoveling events or dealing with adverse weather events a year, right? Do you suppose that they're going out there playing these intense games, beating the heck out of each other, and then not working out the rest of the time? Absolutely not, right? Who here would agree that shoveling can be a fairly intense activity? Yeah, I would call it extreme sport, okay? Right? Okay. So, yes? Oh, you look like you're going to have a question. Okay.
Taking it in.
I would call it an extreme sport. So this lack of conditioning starts to be, if you think about it, it starts to really become an issue. We've developed so many ways by which we're able to have machines do things for us, to be comfortable, to not have to work so much, and we've developed that as a real strong value in our society. And I'm here to kind of run counterpoint to that and say that it's making us vulnerable at the times that it counts most. I think that one way to protect yourself is to start valuing activity when it's available to you. For instance, so this is just one layer, right? So this is one thing that you can do about conditioning, is choose to do things yourself when you're able. And that can be as simple as, one choice that I made for myself when I went to buy a lawnmower. I didn't buy a riding lawnmower. Why didn't I buy a riding lawnmower? Anybody, any guesses? Walking is good exercise, right? And if you walk fast behind a lawnmower, I call it extreme yard work, okay? You can get your heart rate going pretty good, okay? So I don't have a riding lawnmower because I want to make sure to get that exercise, right? I'm a busy professional with 3 young children who are each in 3 different schools in the SAD 35 district.
Wow, you're kidding me.
All of them having, in dance classes, basically every day of the week but Sunday. So I don't really have time for the gym. I do, I snatch little workouts at home when I can, and when it snows, I make sure I turn that into a workout. Shoveling is my workout. I hit workout on my Fitbit I have right. If nobody has one of these, oh man, they're amazing. I hit workout and it records it, and boy, I think I burned like 600 or 700 something calories shoveling snow.
Wow.
Right? So yeah, it's really cool. It's a great little metric, right? So if you instead of because think about it, right? If there was no training involved, do you suppose we'd have the 6 Super Bowls to our name that Tom Brady's won us? Do you think he'd even still be playing? No, right? So it's training for life is, is super important. So taking the opportunity to have activity where you can, instead of maybe choosing an option that would rob you of that activity, is really, really, really important first step to staying conditioned, staying ready for the challenges that life is going to literally dump on you. Okay, and then another layer to this is to start seeking out some level of recreational activity that is fun for you. Because I don't know about you, but I hate going to the gym. I hate it with a passion. It's boring and it's awful. I don't know how they stay in business, except I think we've developed this whole guilt complex around staying in shape in the United States. People pay their memberships and don't show up and feel good about themselves, or they feel too guilty to cancel it. So what I suggest is, find something you like to do. I like to run. I like to dance. I'm not in the closet about it. I do the dad's dance that my kids, dance program puts on every year. We were a bunch of goofy fools. We looked silly. I dressed like an old lady last year. And it was fantastic. So this is something that, don't think of it as, oh, it's a drudge. Oh God, it's terrible. You can add in, even, times when you're, when you have an activity or something like that, or you're feeling like, oh, it's got to, do something simple. Like, one opener that I really love is to just get down and touch the floor and reach all the way up to the sky, right? It's basically a full functional movement, just making sure that you can still bend the knees, and work like this. Because this is, one thing that happens as we become inactive, our flexor muscles, and I'm going to get into this also when we get to biomechanics, but the flexor muscles become more dominant. They have a greater representation in the brain, and as we start to get weak, these stay strong. How many people here have tight hamstrings? Anybody? Tight hamstrings? Yes, right? So you can almost bet that your quads are probably a little bit on the weak side, right? So that's something that you can work on too. So find something that you love to do. Dance, walk, run, garden. Gardening is huge. And one of the things I really like about gardening, it's another opportunity to use a shovel over the course of a year. You get a little bit more practice for the extreme sport that comes when winter arrives, right? Anything else I wanted to put here? Practice. And man, instead of lifting weights or anything like that, just practice lifting heavy things. To your tolerance. Because let's see, did I bring the? Oh yes, okay. Where'd the ball go? Back that guy to that. There we go. Did I show any of you this before? Yeah. Okay. Here and there I do, right? So there's a big difference between doing this, right, and doing this, right? But most people are inclined to kind of bend over at the waist like that because of the dominance of the hamstrings, right? So if you practice doing things correctly in the off season, then you're going to do them correctly in the on season. You're not going to be able to remind yourself when you're rushing to get off to work, in the morning. Oh yeah, I should do this correctly, right? Form is the last thing on your mind. So so that's important. So train up. It's not just for mirror muscles. It's not just to look great. It's not only for some, maybe I'll live longer, maybe I won't. But it's about protecting you for the challenges that come up. It's about keeping you from getting injured when it counts, right? If you're ready, then you're ready, and then you don't get beat up and you don't end up on the sideline, right? Okay, good. So biomechanics. All right. Who wants to be my guinea pig? Who's feeling strong? Anybody? Rex, how about you? You look like a strong guy. Here, go ahead and take these. Go ahead and stand up for me so everybody can see you. Going right up here. Okay, good. Turn and face the audience. All right, give him a nice big smile. There we go. He's got a better beard than me. I'm so jealous. Okay. So what I want you to do is take this manly looking weight right here, okay, and hold it close to your chest. Can you do that? Okay. If I offered you $1 million to do that all day, you think you could?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Right. How about an hour?
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. Now take this one. Okay. Hold it out in front of you like that. Okay. If I offered you $1 million to do that for an hour, do you think you could?
Doesn't feel like it.
Doesn't feel like it?
No.
Well, let's see how it goes. You just stay like that, smile and look pretty, and we'll see when you need to stop, okay? Everybody was at a time, 10:17, okay? All right, good. All right. So Rex is gonna be our model for today. All right. Let's see, so I did the demo. So that's and I want to elaborate a little bit more about the bowling ball. So as you can see with Rex here, right? He's got one weight close to his center of gravity. He's got another one far away from his center of gravity. Okay, which shoulder is burning a little bit right now?
Actually, it's my forearm right there.
Okay, so forearm, good, but whichever, right? Okay, so this is far away from the center of gravity.
Yeah.
Because of the laws of physics and the way that levers work, that's a mechanical disadvantage, that's a mechanical advantage. So think about this. This is your center of gravity, about 2 inches forward of here, right? So about here, okay? So if I go to move any amount of load, if I do that from here,
Right.
that's going to multiply that force many, many times over, okay? And put it straight into one of the areas that takes constant rotational stress whenever you walk, whenever you move. And, and if you have any little faults there, which a lot of people do, the breaker's going to blow, okay? And you're going to be on the couch. But this is why, so you know how people say lift with the legs, not with the back, and it doesn't make any sense because you have to use your back to lift, even if you lift with the legs. It's not about that, right? It's a useful concept to keep in your mind, but the reason why you want to lift with your legs, it's all about staying as close to your center of gravity as possible when you're lifting up a load. This is way kinder on your body, and it's more the way that it's designed to work than anything like this.
Right.
So if we extrapolate that to something like shoveling, how you doing over there, Rex?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Beginning to shake a little bit.
You starting to feel it?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All right, good. He's gonna have like one great big deltoid, right?
Yeah,
We'll put him on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, but we'll just photograph this side here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The other thing is you left-handed.
So think about this, right?
I
What's
thought
that?
I've got a list for him when he gets
Oh,
home.
good.
He's left-handed.
Okay. Well, so do you get the point? I'll take those. There we go. Let's hear it from Rex, guys.
Yay. I hope you haven't worn yourself out.
Good
It's
deal.
a long list.
I don't think so.
So I'm going to use my favorite shovel here because it's my favorite. So think about, this is a load too. It's a little bit of different, it's off center, right? But it's the same thing. You want to stay centered. You want to lift as close to your center of gravity as possible. So most people I see doing like this, right? Anybody ever been guilty of this? Yeah, right? I won't ask you to raise your hands because I'm showing you the bad, wrong way to do it, right? So look at this. Now what I'm doing, I'm not just lifting from here, but look what my back is doing.
Right.
It's twisting and it's bent at a mechanical disadvantage. How are you not going to get hurt doing it like that? It's a recipe for disaster. So as opposed to bending over and using your back to twist and holding yourself up with your dominant hamstrings, and if your knees are bad, boy, find somebody to help you loosen them up. Because you really need them. They're there to protect your back. Okay? And in fact, before I get into the stewards and show the right way, let's have everybody come up for a second. Go ahead and put your clipboards down on your chair. We're going to do something in yoga that they call chair pose, okay? But we don't even have to lift our arms up. What I want everybody to do is just basically sit down like this, like you're sitting in a chair. Get those knees nice and bent, as close to parallel as you could get your thighs to the ground. And now just breathe, right? Now you want to keep your knees behind your toes. So let your butt go back.
Oh, behind your toes.
Yep. Yep, just like that, right? If you're feeling strong, right, do the full thing, okay? Now just hold it. Good. And breathe. Anybody feeling it?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody feeling it? Want to do this for about another 10 minutes?
No.
No! Oh, goodness gracious, okay. So those are muscles where we often, they get weak over time when we're not using, when we're not practicing lifting, when we're not getting down there on the ground and standing up. And so we fall back on these naturally stronger flexors, but they're the things that's going to tear your back to pieces. So get these guys stronger, squats, lifts from the ground, things like that. Okay? Good. Go ahead and have a seat, guys. There we go. Anybody else want to try the weight demo?
All right.
Yeah,
Oh, guess he did it. I'll have to
there you go. Give it a shot. There we go.
try. All right.
Yeah. Hold one close to you, hold one out. Okay. So here's what I propose. So this is kind of almost what you would call a stiff-legged deadlift with a twist, which is, you know, totally a recipe for disaster with an uneven weight, okay? Here's what I propose for this. We treat it not so much like a stiff-legged deadlift, like a bend-over lift and twist, but like a lunge, okay? So the best way to protect yourself when you're shoveling, to keep yourself safe, is to keep this close to you. Don't reach out for anything. Step right in, and you might step into some deep snow and get something down your shoes, and that's okay. Okay? Step right into it like that. You see okay back there, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay. Lift it from here. Step up with it, and then when you go to throw it, go, right? Again, step and throw, right? Step and throw. You know, so we'll show it this way. Here we go. I'm left-handed. I think this is the way I'm supposed to use it, but my dad taught me to swing a bat and everything right-handed, and so away we go, right? Well, he didn't know any difference. He showed me his way. So, step, and you see how, you can't really help it, you know, by holding the handle back here, you've got it, you know, this is basically the weight right here, right? Lift, and then use the momentum of your body to step back and throw. And I usually design it when I'm shoveling to make sure that I can move in the ideal way, so that I'm shoveling, you know, so I'm throwing in the right direction and that kind of thing. Okay. You notice I brought two shovels here also. Okay. So here's another thing to protect you. And I've heard people say, "Oh, I don't like those shovels," you know, because I think, you know, these are designed maybe for doing this. Right? I don't like them for that, because you get about this far and you need to pick it up and throw it anyway, and then you've got 3 times the amount of snow on there that you would have if you just took a regular shovelful, right? What I like these for is look at, well, I don't know if you can see here, okay? Oh, can I get another volunteer?
Whoop, you beat me.
Rick, all right. Thanks, Rick, come on up. Here, you take this one, okay? One, let's see, you right-handed? Which way is more comfortable for you to shovel? This way? This way? You're left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Right-handed.
I shovel left.
Okay,
Oh.
here we go. There's like one baseball player that bats left and throws right. Okay, so what I want you to do is do like I was doing. Step in, so grab the shovel, get it right down there. Yep, good. And bend this knee really good. Get down in there, okay, and get down. Can you see how he's not as bent over as I am?
Right.
And how high his hand is higher than mine is to get down to that load? Okay, that's what I like that shovel for. Thanks, Rick. You're a good man, Charlie
I
Brown.
admit that I had one of them,
Yep.
used it one storm
Yeah.
and threw it away. The reason being, because all the years I've used
Yeah.
green shovels.
Green shovels?
Grain shovels.
Those are huge.
Grain shovels, okay.
And they're just to be more
That's what I get for
comfortable.
being white collar, I don't. Okay, well, so we got special preferences here. But you can see this is for protecting your back. That's why I love this. Because you don't have to bend down as much. Because that extra little bit, in order to get down near the business end of the shovel, right? Because the only way to keep from bending over too far with a shovel like this is to hold it, is to choke back on the handle like this. And then you're having to, lift much more weight at a long lever like this. When you're lifting anything, you want to be as close to it as possible. Just like when I tell my kids to keep them from splattering stuff they're stirring all over the kitchen. Because they like to hold spoons like this, and stir batter, and then, when they slip, it goes everywhere, right? Because they have no control, right? As soon as they, something unexpected happens. So you need to be down in the business end. This allows you to be down at the business end. And it allows you to bend over a good, 7 inches less, right? Good 7 inches less. That's the difference between this and this, right? This or this. That's huge, right? So that's why, so I'm not shilling for True Temper or anything like that. Well, actually, they're both True Tempers, right? Just one was probably cheaper. But in order to save your back, give yourself a little advantage, and then you can stay active and and do what needs to be done. Let me see. Yeah, good. There. Right. Anybody want to try this while we're on it? think you get the concept, right? So it's holding it, and you lunge with the outside leg, bend into it, and lift. Step back and use your body momentum, not torquing of your back to throw. Cheat. All right, good. So there we go. All right, so preferred, not preferred. Okay, good. Now, let's see. Okay. Now, what I want you guys to look at, so we have, the last one we want to talk about, oh, I skipped over to biomechanics. Okay, loss of stability. All right. This one's huge. So we're meant to, to be stepping on uneven terrain, running through the woods, chasing after it, so constant balance challenge, right? But, in most of our lives, and gosh, I'm doing it to you right now, right? You guys are sitting here with flattened spines with the supporting muscles turning to jelly as you're listening to me talk about how to be healthy in your spinal biomechanics.
I know.
Isn't that horrible, right? But if I didn't put any chairs for you guys, you'd be like, oh, that guy, what doesn't think there? So
They should
anyway.
hire you at Liberty Mutual to
Right.
do this talk for them. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So there are a few ways to deal with it. So the muscles that stabilize your back, they're not the same ones that move your back, okay? For every joint that moves like this, my bicep is doing like that. There's, in here, there's a deeper muscle called the brachialis that kind of compresses that joint and keeps it from just slipping out and leaving you screaming on the floor, right? It's called the shunt stabilizer. So it's always a deeper muscle, and it's always a little bit closer to the joint and typically smaller, okay? These muscles are also, there's two types of ways that muscles are activated. There's muscles that you activate on purpose, that's called volitional, and there are muscles that do what they're supposed to do without you even thinking about it, right? And those are reflexive or non-volitional muscles, right? So in your back, I didn't bring anything to blow this up, so what I'm gonna do here is just to bring this around to you guys, okay? Just show you the muscles of the back, right? So here are the big mover muscles. We see those big long muscles that move it. We see everything else, and a lot of the superficial muscles of the back actually move your arms and move your legs and that kind of thing, right? But here's some of the, that's the lat, deep, the deep movers a little bit more right in there, okay? You right there? Mm-hmm. So these are all the muscles that move. When you say, I want to move, I want to stand up, that kind of thing, this is that level, okay? And you guys can feel those main ones if you just feel the kind of two high parts going down your back there. Well, that's this here. So this is more, so these are the pretty, straight back extensors. One level in right here. And I'm pretty used to this stuff. I hope nobody's grossed out by looking at sort of, dissected pictures and that kind of thing. But at least it doesn't smell like formaldehyde, so I think we'll all be okay, right? There we go. If anybody needs an airplane bag, just let us know. Okay. So these are the big mover muscles. Okay. One more time. Now what I want you guys to look at. So these muscles make your back move, but without the stabilizers, you basically break your back the first time that you try to do anything, right? And then life would be over, and you'd be, I don't know. Hopefully you turn out to be as smart as Stephen Hawking. I don't know. So look at these little stabilizers. Look how deep they are. See that? Right. Okay. There we go. See that? Look at those. See? They don't look very, very big or very strong, do they? I want you to contract that one right now. Can you do that? No, not so much, right? It's not volitional, it's reflexive. See, all these, so and all the little, I should have brought a model of the spine, but you can feel the little bumps in your spine. There are ones that stick off to the side. These all can connect between the two bumps in the back and between the bumps in the back and the side.
Yep.
Just little bitty muscles, just like this. Like if you ever made turkey soup and had the spine fall apart, you've probably seen these, right? There we go. They're vertebrate anatomy is pretty similar from animal to animal. There we go. Just like that. All these little bitty muscles right here, right? Okay. So like I told you, these muscles are not volitional. You can't activate them on purpose. So if I go doing like this all day long, thinking I'm making myself strong, right? If I go and I'm doing this all day long, thinking I'm trying to make my abs strong and make my back strong, is that going to do anything for stability?
No.
No. So there's really another aspect to conditioning. You've got to challenge your balance. Anytime you're doing something that makes you wobble a little bit, that's the balance reflex. That's the stability reflex. It's tied into the posture reflex. That's why people straighten up a lot when they come in to see us at our office. So there are a few ways to do this, okay? Or I'm gonna give you three, okay? One is to just take the opportunity to stand on one leg when you get the opportunity.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that.
Okay, good. Make sure to switch legs. We typically gonna have a bad one, right? All right, so let's do that again. Everybody up, everybody who feels safe, let's try it. Anybody who doesn't, stand near a counter or a wall, okay? And I'll give you an advantage. Pick your good leg, lift them up, and make sure you're not touching one leg to the other, like you're doing. Good. There we go. Give it a shot. Not super easy, is it? There we go. There. So there we go. So for you, Bob, you're gonna wanna do this, so there are different levels of this, right? So anybody who can't do that at all, you're gonna wanna do holding something. It'll still help, right? Yeah.
Me.
Oh, well, he'll just drag you down, so, and test, and see which side is your worst, okay? Another level of this, right, is to do it, someone with ideal balance, right, should be able to do this with their eyes closed for a minute without falling. So once you get to the point where you can just do this all the live long day with your eyes open, another level of challenge is to try to do it with your eyes closed. And my left is my bad side, but I'm doing okay today. You look at this, right? So standing on one leg is a great way to do it. You take away the stability of two, right? So even if, if you ever look at yourself, the more wide-based your stance is, the more likely you are to have a lot of instability. You're making up for it by giving yourself as big of a base as possible, right? So I just, it's the same thing with drunk people. Go ahead, you guys can see it again if you want to. So the next thing to do, right, because it screws your balance system, because there's a lot of high energy neurons in there that get poisoned first. Let's see. Okay, good. Next thing to do, and this thing is a little bit less safe. You're definitely, if you're new to this, you want to do it close to a wall with somebody close at hand or what have you until you're absolutely sure. But you can also get things like a foam pad or something like that are not as wobbly as this. But this, you don't even have to stand on one leg to do this. So stand on something, and we have these at our office, by the way. So if you want one, you know where we are. Please find it. This is called a balance disc. If you just put balance disc on Amazon, if you want to have it delivered to your door, that you can do that too. We just have it for a convenience, but you stand on this. You see, there's no way that I can stand steadily on this thing. It's totally resisting me. So every little wobble is me strengthening those little bitty muscles that I showed you that last time that I went around, okay? Those little itty bitty muscles. This works those, okay? Because it's a reflex. My brain, before I consciously realized that I wobble, because if you had to process, oh darn, I'm wobbling, I need to correct, you would immediately fall. So this is gonna touch off the balance reflex. It's gonna give you more stability in your spine. Again, the single leg does it, standing on something wobbly does it. There are things that rock back and forth, maybe not as good because you don't have the front to back, but there are those, lots of opportunities to do this. Or standing on maybe like a stand-up paddleboard, right, or something in the water. Something that's gonna shake, rattle, and roll you a little bit. Is essentially what you're looking for. Does that make sense? Right. All right, guys, so I forgot to mention something really important in the talk that I was giving over at the library. So here I am back at my office interrupting that program to give you the special message. The stability exercises that I was talking about, standing on one leg, training your balance, all that stuff, that plays into stability with shoveling, safety, and that type of thing. But also, what I didn't mention was in the beginning I had talked about, the jolt from a slip and fall, or straight up slipping and falling. Those types of exercises are very helpful in keeping your back from being thrown out from a sudden jolt, or to keep you from hitting the ground in case you slip on a patch of ice, okay? All right, good, I'm glad we cleared that up. Can you see how?
I find that interesting because
Yeah.
looking at things when I try to balance, I always think I'm aiming for perfection. But what I'm hearing from you is actually perfection being standing still. But what I'm hearing from you is actually, no, that's not what you're wanting. You're wanting to move.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like,
It's because it's strengthening you. If you're doing something that's well within your capacity to do it well, and it's not challenging you at all, does it make you stronger or no?
no.
No, right? The only way that you can ever get stronger at anything is doing something that's challenging or hard. That's the bummer of life. We want easy, but the only way to get better is hard. Never shall the two meet, right? But that's why relaxing after a hard day's work feels so good versus hanging out on the couch all day on a snow or like a 3-day snow, extravaganza. It feels terrible, right? So that's the deal. And then of course, I couldn't talk about this without also giving a shout out to yoga. I love yoga for a whole host of reasons, and it's why we offer morning classes every other Thursday in our office, and it's why we're also I can't remember what Amanda figured out, but we're planning an evening program as well. Because essentially what yoga does is just various poses of using your body in all sorts of different ranges of motion, right? Sideways, doing a standard twist, or something like that. So there are a lot of, not only does it obviously challenge your balance in something like a tree pose, right? Where you're wobbling on one leg and, maybe even looking up to the sky and there I go. But you're also using whole body movement, which gets you a stronger, healthier brain, right? Because your brain relies on, 90% of what it does is process movement. So if you move your whole body, like think about it. Most people move maybe this much in a given day, right? How much more range is available to me? This much, right? This much. Right? So if you make sure to use as much range as available to you on any given day, right? Then you're going to maintain a healthier brain, because there's a part of your brain that's devoted to all the different places that you can move. And if you don't go in those places, right, then eventually you become unable to go in those places. And that becomes a problem. And then when you go and try to do something like shovel, you don't have full mobility available to you and you can't bend your knees anymore. Then you have no choice but to shovel and risk hurting, do the what do they call this? The stiff-legged deadlift with a twist and kill your back, right? So I love yoga, the videos, YouTube, our office, it's no charge for current active patients and very, very low for anybody else who, comes wandering in. And I think it's the only game in town for South Berwick, which is why we do it. Moving around the office is a bit of a pain, but I'll do it for you guys. Let's see. That's pretty much it. Of course, if you find yourself unable to get ahead of, seasonal chore injuries and it still happens to you, you know who to call. So, we're not that hard to find just over there. But I've been looking into this kind of thing for a long time because, before I got into healthcare, before I got into chiropractic, I started undergraduate school as a creative writing major. So I wanted to launch into life as a writer. And I still do, I enjoy it, I still haven't written the great American novel, but one of these days. But then I came out saying, oh God, how am I gonna make a living? So I kept painting houses like I had done to put myself through college.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I worked for so this is where the story goes, I'm not just trying to go off on a tangent. And so I watched the guys that, first I worked for myself, then I worked for another guy who had a big outfit, and I didn't have to worry about finding jobs and estimating them and making sure I was charging the right amount and stuff. So working for him, I looked at all the guys who had been doing it for 20, 30 years, and, all the complaint, sciatica, and, all the, oh God. I said, I don't want to end up like that. you know? And so, you know, my personal journey, you know, outside, and what I'd love to do, wellness is such a, you know, it's such a non-attractive thing because nobody thinks about it until they're ill, you know, but you know, I want to live to 100 running the, you know, and die running the Boston Marathon and, you know, and finishing it, and just poof, right there, right? There it is, I'm like breaking the tape, like the most, you know, just go out in a blaze of, you know, fitness and glory, like Jack LaLanne or something. You know, not being sidelined, you know, to try to, you know, start running that race and go, oh God, you know. And so using these strategies, you know, knowing how to keep yourself ready for action, knowing how to keep yourself stable so that even if you're strong, you still have problems, right? Because how many, you know, anybody know anybody who's like super strong, lifts weights and still blew out their back? Yeah, right? You know, that's why the stability component is there, right? So conditioning the big mover muscles, stability of the little reflex muscles, and using your body like a pro, not like a rank amateur, and you're gonna give yourself the very best chance to have an injury-free winter. Fair enough? Thanks, everybody. Any questions?
Standing on that thing, would you recommend doing it barefoot or stocking foot or?
Oh yeah, barefoot is good, because if you look, does anybody, let me just move this thing around. I think you've stood on this.
I know the first
Feel
day,
it. Yeah.
I know the first day in your office, you
Yep.
had me stand on that. Good thing she was
That's
behind
good.
me.
That's good. But see, there's knobblies on it, right? And so these actually, you know, I think they pretty much all come with this standard. This is kind of cool because it's just another stimulation. It gives your feet something to feel and, you know, and integrate. And your balance system isn't just the canal systems in your ear. That's part of it. You know, but also just the integration of what all your joints are doing, how much pressure is on every little part of your foot, and all that stuff. So the more you increase stimulation, the more you activate the brain, the more ready you'll be for anything. Yeah. So these, well, you know, I mean, if you do want to use one of these, and you're not sure, you know, just wall is your friend. There's no shame in it. You don't need to be perfect, right? Because as you can see, and have I lost the wobble by holding onto the wall?
No.
Not at all, right? It's still working. It's still working okay. Just because you can't do it as good as somebody who's been working on it forever because they're a fanatic,
Now I have a question.
health nut.
Did you say how long you should do that?
I think you get tired of it before it's too long.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so they,
You know, and I think that's the thing. You know, I'm not 3 times a day for 5
Right.
minutes. Yeah, and I give, you know, when,
Well, you
you
know
know,
why
my
I
office
asked.
situation, I give, you know, times, what have you, just to try to get something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you have a, you know, kind of like, oh, you know, whenever you feel like it, you know, then it
Well,
doesn't
the
happen.
reason why I asked is because when you told me about the cold pack,
Yeah,
that it was exactly like 20 minutes, it was,
yeah, that's
that
very
was-
different, yeah.
right, and I didn't know if there, you know, if there was something like that, where you had to do it for X amount of time to make it, whatever.
No, but it's like, you know, 5 minutes or so, or something
Yeah, well,
like
that's
that,
a
you
lot.
know, or a couple times a day or something, you know, just, you know, watching TV, you know, and hey, it's more fun this way, look at
Yeah,
that.
it's just
You know,
a thing.
my brain is not rotting as much, because I'm activating my reflex muscles.
This is kind of interesting,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, so I hope I gave you something useful. Any other questions, just, you know, come right on up and ask me. If you wanna look at my dissection, Netter is such an amazing artist. You know, look at these pictures again, get a better feel for that, that's fine, you know, I'm a resource, I'm here for you. But if not, I'll collect the clipboards, and we can adjourn. There you go, and thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I hope I was a good help to you. Oh, wait, yep, there we go. There we go.
Now, what did
Oh,
you
take
say?
the pens out. There we go.
You
Good.
get them through Amazon, they got them in the regular stores?
Get them through Amazon, and we also have them at our office for like 30 cents more than Amazon has.
Yeah. Cause I've seen some of the
They're
teachers had
like
them at
20
school.
bucks.
I thought it was something they sat
They're
on.
like 20
Oh,
bucks.
yeah, I was waiting
Oh,
for it too.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, what, you sit on that to keep them sliding off the chair?
There we go. And we have and actually this one came from my house, which is why it's different from the cool black ones that I have at the office. And we've had it forever. The kids jump on it, they do all kinds of stuff, and it's never busted or broken. So as far as I'm concerned, if it's not a lifetime purchase, it's pretty close. So pretty cool. Good deal. All right. Thanks, everybody.